guys, and welcome to this episode of the Bad Idea Bros. So we've got a bit of a special episode for you today. If you guys remember the Hickory Bay episode that we've done previously, if you haven't watched that, I recommend you go and have a look now, because the bike we're working on today is Warren's 1950 Royal Enfield 350 Bullet. It's a very special vintage bike, and it needs a little bit of love, so that's what we're going to be doing today. To explain a bit better, I'm going to pass you over to Warren.
So while we were on our last Bad Idea Bros ride, we noticed that there was a little bit of puff of smoke and a little bit of spray of oil coming from the old girl. We decided we were going to pull it down, have a bit of a look just around the outside, see what we can find, possibly some seals need doing, have a little bit look inside the motor, see how old she is. We don't know what damage has been done over the years. We just know it's a low mileage bike according to the clock. Let's see what we can find inside.
As you can see, there is a gap between the carby's mouth and the cylinder head there. It hasn't been like that from the ride, obviously. It never would have run. We did remove those bolts first in an attempt to get the carburetor out before the tank, but it was just too tight and wasn't going to happen. So we'll proceed with the valve cover, then basically the cylinder head, and then hopefully the barrel should come off without much of a fight, which will give us access to the push rods, piston head, and we'll see what this looks like inside. Now, Warren did mention that these motors in the owner's manual recommend decarboning. That's basically just a process of pulling the accumulated carbon off the top of the piston head and potentially in the cylinder. As you heard in the opener, it is a low mileage bike, supposedly by the gauge, so we're going to put that to the test, and once we pull the bore apart, we will see just how much wear's in there, as that will be the indicator of what sort of miles this bike's done. So we're going to crack on with that and see what we find inside this thing. Alright guys, so that's got the top end of the motor pulled apart. These guys are your push rods, so they obviously operate the little tappets here that operate the valves in situ, and they should just lift straight up out of the motor like so. So that's inlet, and that should be exhaust. Alright, simple as that. It's one of the glorious things about these old motorcycles. They're made to be worked on. They're not have to be sent to a dealer to get your jobs done on these. And we've never actually worked on anyone like this before. This is probably the oldest bike I've ever put a spanner to, so it's all a bit of a learning process. But we've got the owner's workshop manual, and to be honest, they are a pretty simple old thing. So we will push on. There we go. Perfect. And that is caked. Yeah, there's a lot of carbon in there. You actually see the discoloration here on this side. That's an indication of things getting pretty hot. Generally speaking, the whiter something is, the hotter it's been burning. But what the video might not show is that there is actually a lot of carbon deposit inside this thing. But how many years old is this bike?
71.
It's 71 years old, and this has probably never been done, so it's not surprising to see that sort of thing in this motor. Next will be the barrel, and then yeah, we'll see where the piston's at. Alrighty guys, so that is the cylinder head done, as you saw. Some internals there, and we've got the piston off. You might notice, for those eagle-eyed viewers, there's only one ring on this piston, and that is because the others are in parts. This and this should be one piece. And we pulled the bore out, and that was fine. It's actually in pretty good condition, so it's a huge surprise to see broken rings. Now, we didn't do the breaking of the rings, pulling it apart. They were in pieces already, so that does explain some compression issues and things that we were finding with this old bike. But generally speaking, everything's in pretty good condition. There's a bit of pitting, nothing major. Like we said, it's an old vehicle, so yeah, that's the top end pulled apart. And the bike itself, this is where we're at. So we've got the conrod in here. I don't think we're going to split the case today. We might pull this cover off and have a look at the timing. That's just something else that needs to be done on these things. But some stuff that you don't normally see on motorcycles nowadays, this has got grease nipples and all old school bits and pieces like that, and it's absolutely amazing. I do enjoy the old stuff, so it's interesting to see how things used to be done. Well guys, that all came apart pretty easily. The bike didn't fight us too much, which was nice. It's a nice simple motor to work on. But that is as far as we can go currently. So Warren's got some parts ordered from the UK, which will take their time to come. We're basically at the mercy of international mail now. But we will proceed as soon as the bits are here, and we can carry on.
We only get one chance. That's why Cabinet has met this afternoon and made the decision that New Zealand will move to Alert Level 4 from 11:59 p.m. tonight.
Hey guys, Warren here. Got a great surprise for you. Guess what turned up in the mail today? The bits have arrived. So, without further ado, let's see what we got. This is awesome. It's only taken probably 2 weeks. I didn't exactly count. I was planning on it being a month. And that's what I thought was from the last episode I had 5. But this has come through so much quicker. I thought it was going to be October before I started. Oh, goody. So that's all right. All that. Straps, gaskets, seals, more straps, the new accelerator cable. Oh, look, the rubber seal for the chain for the clutch box. That's going to be awesome. Oh, more ties and stuff. And something for my butt.
Okay guys, so we can be back into this today now that lockdown is over here in New Zealand. So as you can see, the bike is essentially in the same condition as we left it. You would have seen on those 2 short videos that Warren's got all his parts and that he has done the rings on the piston. So, where are we at today, man?
Well, today we're going to put this thing back together. We're going to start off getting the piston back onto that conrod. We're going to slip the barrel back on, bolt all that down, make sure everything lines up. Start putting the little pieces back together as it goes, because there are parts that come in sequence, and then we'll get the head on it. And hopefully by the end of today, we'll set a tank on it and see if we can start her up.
Sounds like a good plan to me. So I believe we should get into this thing. You guys can see that piston head is looking very shiny and smooth. So this has had a full treatment. It's been chemical washed and been taken to with the wire wheel just to take any carbon deposits off. So these can be a bit finicky to put back together. There is an order and a process. So we will continue.
If it will play ball. Come on. There is a slot there. Right about there.
There we go, she's home.
Sit nicely. Right, this
It's a bit hard.
is going to be the hard part. Many hands make light work. And I had this just sitting on the floor for a second, and it's instantly covered in dirt. Can't have any of that entering the engine.
Definitely.
Right. And just got to get over these. Now.
Eventually.
Pretty good on this side.
I'm good on this side.
That's it, we're home.
Right. Just watch that stud goes in.
Yep. And we are good.
Okay, just. Oh, look at that.
Perfect. You can hear that compression, and there is no ill scraping. You can see the little level of oil over the top of the piston head there. that means that our rings are sealing and doing their job. So that is successful. Guys, so that's the cylinder head has been torqued down off camera. So there's actually 5 retaining bolts in these ones. So you can see the 2 on this side, corresponding on the other side, and then just between the push rods on the face of the engine here is the 5th. Because that's done, and we have to build this in levels, the next job is the mag, which is this guy right here, which will slot in just behind. You can see that it's pre-greased and ready to go, so it should just send home nicely. Like so.
And she is in.
Alright guys, next step is the cylinder head. So we're obviously progressively working our way up the motor. The wee copper ring there is the gasket on these ones. And this is a bit finicky because you've got to line up about 4 or 5 things at the same time. So we've got Warren just ensuring the cleanliness of the head there. You can see that's all been decarboned and is ready to go. The valves are nice and shiny. So, all going well. This should just slot into position first go without too much of a fight. So here's hoping.
Praying.
Look at that.
Well, that's the simple part. We've got to actually put it all together.
So, now that this has all been assembled, we're going to crank it over by hand with a kickstart, and you should see everything just moving along very smoothly.
There's some compression there, I tell you.
That's what we want.
It's a sign that's a good job.
Alright guys, so that's a win. We move on.
I need to be an octopus about now.
A few extra limbs would definitely be helpful.
Oh, come on.
Says the guy that's standing here completely useless behind the camera currently.
You haven't been useless for the whole job.
Alrighty guys, that's all the ancillaries done now. So we are literally putting the cherry on top of the cake. So just the top of the well, tappet cover I suppose for this thing, isn't it?
It is, yes. Not a very glorious sort of a title for such a very important piece, otherwise the oil will be squirting all over me. And this doesn't have to go tight, it's just a oil seal. And that's perfect.
There we have it. So that guys is a complete Enfield motor. So if we've done everything right, once we apply fuel we should have a runner.
Let's just tuck the tank on and give it a go, make sure everything's right, then we'll tidy up all the cabling.
Perfect.
Right, so let's just keep these cables in. Sit that onto the... There. Alright. Oops. Forward. Hang on.
Okay.
Would you like to take that rear
Yep.
foot peg off?
Yep. I'll just move this over here.
How's that?
There we go.
Come on, girl. Okay. That fired out the exhaust. One second.
Come on. Almost there.
I don't know what it is. That firing out the exhaust could be a sign of that 180 degrees out. So,
That's That's that export call, I think.
Yep.
Okay. So we've just attempted a first start. Is unsuccessful. But we've got 2 of the 3 parts. The compression's really good, and we have good fuel. So, as Warren's just indicated, the timing cover, which is this guy here, may well be 180 degrees out. So that's the only thing we can think of that could be preventing this engine from firing. So as you guys would have seen and heard on the video then, it's backfiring through the exhaust. That could be an indicator that the timing is out, as mentioned before. We had a bit of a play with the points ignition system just to see if that was sparking correctly. Found the gap to be way too big, so we've adjusted that. It showed more signs of life, which is obviously encouraging, but the bike's still not firing. So we've ticked off all the simple stuff. It's now time to dig a little further. The only issue with this, it's a little frustrating because the prior time this cover's been off, it's all been elastic or glued back on, so it's going to be a bit of a fight, unfortunately. But it's one of those things with older bikes, with any bike, it doesn't take much to come awry. So this should hopefully separate all right, and you guys will see all the gears in here. Now, that arrangement of gears is not only the timing, but it's also the ancillary oil pump, which is quite interesting. So what we're going to do now off camera, just because it's going to be a bit of a nightmare to film, is we will check the indication marks on all of these, just to make sure everything's accurate. As we said, the popping and misfire out the exhaust can be an indicator of 180 degrees timing, or the timing being out 180 degrees. So we're just going to double check our work now, and then see how we go.